tutorial is to show the difference between HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and how it is used in everyday web design. So after this tutorial, whatever level of understanding of web design that you have, you can actually build your first web page. Is as easy as that. Just understand the basics and you will get it from here, I can assure you. So we're going to look. The simple truth is every website is built with these three technologies. That's the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. The HTML, the full meaning is hypertext markup language. Don't bother about that. The CSS is cascade style sheets, while JavaScript is JavaScript. So everything else builds up on top of this. So basically, these are just the three things we use. So I'm going to be explaining what each of it does in you building, for you to build your first web page. Now you have your, by the way, my name is Tolu. By the way, yes, my name is Tolu. We have your HTML structure, your HTML, which represents the structure. If you're going to build something, just imagine it to be the skeleton. That's what gives the structure of what your web page looks like. It describes it. It doesn't perform any function. It doesn't perform any action, but it is just the structure on which your web page is designed on. Then you have your CSS. Your CSS too doesn't perform any action, but it gives appearance to your HTML. That's the structure. Just imagine you have a skeleton, then you have um, flesh. You have flesh on the skeleton, the way you are. So that's what the CSS does to the HTML. Then your JavaScript is what gives action. For example, if you have a phone with you, you click on the phone, you click on a button and it performs an action. You type something, you see a result from what you type. So that is your JavaScript in action. It gives life to the structure that has been beautified by the CSS. So each layer has its distinct job and they work together. Then your, what is HTML? We are giving a prelude to it. HTML, like I said earlier, is hypertext markup language. It defines the structure and meaning to your web page. What is your web page all about? What is the essence of your web page? So what do you want to see? Do you want to have a do you want your web page to be about a calculator? Do you want it to be a blog? So what kind of web page are you looking at building? So at the level of the HTML, you give description to it. So that's what determines, that's what the entire building is framed on. What do you want to build? So you must have come to terms with what you want to do, then you give structure to what you want to do. What content exists? That is, what is available, and what each thing is, and how the content is organized. So basically, this is what HTML does. It helps to give uh, it gives structure to your web page. What is this web page all about? What am I supposed to um, get? Um, what am I supposed to? What effect is this web page supposed to have? So in HTML, some examples, some of the things you have is you have your headings. Um, in the latter um, in the latter slides, you're going to see some examples of HTML files, code lines. When you hear code lines, nothing scary about it. It's just a way to a unified way of communicating with the system. So a generally accepted way of communicating with the system. So it's nothing special. Once you understand the element, simple syntax, this syntax is universally used. So that's why it is the way it is. It's not as if it's something complex. So in your HTML, you have your headings, you have your paragraphs, just you have your buttons, you have images, you have links, you have forms. So however, it does not, it's not going to dictate how the um, web page is going to look like, how it's going to act, but it's like we said, it's the skeleton of the web page that you are building. Now, there is an important clarification. HTML, like we said earlier, excuse me, is not a programming language, it's a markup language. So it only describes content. It has no logic of its own. That is, logic is important in building a web. That is, what do you, like we mentioned, maybe you want to build a task calculator web page. What is the logic? But the HTML does not describe that, but there is a look it's ought to have. If the task calculator needs to have a button, so the button does not have any effect on HTML until you actually add other things to it. So it has no behavior of its own. So that is an important clarification. What is CSS? Like we said, it's cascade style sheet. CSS controls how things look like. I'm sure you would like to see a site that looks presentable, that looks nice, that people would like to see. So then what color? In web development, we are interested in the brand. What does the brand, what will it like to uh, represent? So you have to define the color in the CSS, you have to define the font. Do you want it to be Arial, bold? Do you want it to be Times New Roman? All of that is defined in CSS. Then what spacing? How do you want your web page to be spaced, and what is the layout that you want? How should your web page look? What look do you want it to have? So that's basically what CSS is all about. Then the key idea in CSS is this: it's same HTML but different appearance. In other words, the same thing that you had a structure on in HTML is what you beautify in CSS. Just imagine you have a skeleton from your skull to your toe bones. You have flesh covering it, so it's not a different skeleton. It's not a different. It's the same HTML, but it's just a different appearance. So, however, remember, CSS never creates its own content. It only, just the way it is, cascade style sheet, it only styles your HTML. So what is JavaScript? Now, this is, you can see, it's as simple as that. We've talked about the HTML, we've talked about the HTML which builds the structure, we've talked about the CSS that beautifies it. Now the JavaScript, beautiful. The JavaScript controls the behavior, is the action, is what gives action, what gives attitude, it what gives functionality to your web page. So it responds to user interaction. Imagine you want to shop and you click on a button. What makes the button to respond is your JavaScript. Then it changes content dynamically. That is, the content changes based on the action of JavaScript. So it makes your web page act like an application. So just the way you have your native, your native applications that you download on the Google Store. Your JavaScript on a web page using a browser makes your web page to act like an application. So it gives attitude, it gives behavior. So you can say why the JavaScript is very important. All right, so JavaScript in practice. In practice, you have button clicks. That's when you click the button. Is the button was defined in HTML, but it's what gives action to the. So when you click a button, when you validate a form, that's when you fill a form, is what handles that action. When you see live updates, like when you see news blogs, you see like if you're watching maybe CNN, you see items moving on the screen. That is the action of JavaScript. And when you see animations, that is also the action of JavaScript. So then it also helps to load data, um, information, which is also very important. So how do they work together? Remember we said the browser loads the HTML, that's the structure. Then you apply CSS to give it style. Then you run the JavaScript to give it attitude, to give it behavior. So remember the analogy we gave earlier that the HTML, hypertext markup language, is the skeleton of your web page in your web design. Then the CSS is the cascade style sheet, is what clothes it. If you want to use the word clothes, you want to use the word flesh, it's an analogy. Then the JavaScript is the brain. Imagine a human that has a body that has a bone. He needs to think, he needs to take action, he needs to make projections. So that is what the JavaScript. So just see it like that. It's as simple as that. And way to build your own website. So here we are, close to the. We are already halfway through, and we're already saying that we're already preparing to build our first website. So websites are just files, really. Yes, we place them on, we host them so that it can be accessible by people in remote places, but they are just files. And you can even before you host them, you can locally host them, just see what you have done on your own system. So it doesn't have to be the website you see remotely. You can actually have those files on the system and run them, and it will work effectively. So websites are just files. They are texts, text. You have a text editor. So when you want to build your website, what you need is a text editor. There are different things you can use in text editing. You can even use your notepad. You can use VS Code, but your notepad, I'm sure many people are quite acquainted with that because you use it to save your password. But all you need is a text editor. Remember, you can't use Microsoft Word. So you have your browser. Your browser, remember how it makes the three, the HTML, the CSS, JavaScript to work together. Then you need one HTML file. So HTML, to create the structure, like I said in subsequent slide, maybe towards slide 24, I'll show you an example of an HTML um, line of codes, simple codes. You have your title, you have your heading, you have your text, you have your button. Simple. Then your CSS. Style the page. Your CSS styles the page. It adds fonts. You indicate your font, you indicate your colors, you indicate the spacing, you indicate your layout with your CSS while you're building your CSS. So that is step 2 of building your website. Remember that you have one file first. You create a file with HTML, then you style it. And once you're done, JavaScript, our brain, you give it interaction, you enable it to detect a click when you click the button that was created in the HTML, styled in the CSS. Then the JavaScript helps you to detect that same click. Then it helps to change the content. What you cannot, it will be boring if all you see is just a singular thing. So you can change, use the JavaScript enables enables a change. Then when a user is interacting with a uh, web web page, it helps, it gives it response. Okay, so what are the core principles? Separation of concerns. So remember, HTML is a skeleton as the content is very important, our content. Then CSS is our presentation, JavaScript is our behavior. Then for real world projects, yes, I've told you how simple it can be. In real world projects, you actually have many HTML files. So you wouldn't expect justice because we have complex projects. Just imagine you want to go on Facebook, on your browser. There are several things you want to interfere with. So there are several files. Sometimes those several files are being written by different people on a team. So later we'll still talk about platforms that we use in collaborating, like GitHub. You know, you are designing, you are drawing up this set of files. Another person on the team is designing another set of files. So you eventually have large code bases. And even when you created files, you keep improving the files. For example, if you look at Facebook, for example, the file you created, the way it looks like yesterday might be different from the way it looks like today, because somebody must have introduced a new file, a new set of codes to create a new set of effects. Then you have frameworks. We'll talk about that in details later on. Then, but the fundamentals is the same. You have your HTML, the skeleton, you have your HTML as a skeleton, you have your CSS styling in it, you have your JavaScript, um, um, bringing the behavior, the attitude. Then, why does this matter? Better communication, better visibility evaluation, better product design. So you need to have several files, you need to have several large code bases. So we are now going to, let's learn HTML basics, CSS, that's cascade style sheets, layout, that's the flexbox, then the JavaScript fundamentals. So I can give you the following project: build a personal home page. You can, another project I can give to you is do a to-do list. As a project, have a to-do list. I'm not saying go and write what you want to do tomorrow. Have it as a web project that you can have, that your friends can use to type their to-do list on their system, on their PC. You can have a quiz as a project. That is, you want people to answer a set of questions, then you draw up an HTML project, you style it, you give it Java, you introduce JavaScript to give it an effect. So you draw up a quiz as a web project. Then you have a calculator. I have a project to that effect, because I know a lot of people want to calculate their personal income tax. So I had I was able to draw up a plugin and produce a plugin, and then I introduced it into my web page, and it's functional, so people can calculate their personal income tax. Can use, so not just once, anybody can calculate it, and I introduce some conditions based on the current tax laws. So you can do a profile card. So that's just a few of the things that you can do, but I want you to take some of these as a personal project to see how simple it is. Final takeaway is that the web is not magic. It's not as if the essence of this story is to make you see that when you see something on the system, don't get scared. It's not it's not something that cannot be done. It's something that someone did it like you, and it started as little as this. It started with you knowing and something as elementary as this. Make sure that it is structured, it's logical, and it's learnable. So thank you. You now understand how the web works: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, skeleton, flesh, attitude, action. So if you have any question, you can go ahead and ask me. Then, as I said, I'm going to show you an example of an HTML. You can see there is a way you introduce an HTML. That is how we know that this is an HTML line of code. So that is why you have this. We call them syntax. So you can see my first page. That's the title of your page. You have to introduce that. Every other thing before my first page is important. Is necessary to introduce that this is an HTML. Then you have your header. You see, we indicated it. That is what you're going to somebody that is viewing your web page is going to see. Hello world. They won't see all these syntax. You see hello world. Then the text is, this is my first web page. That's what they're going to see. They will not see the syntax before it, after it. The system already understands that. Then you have your button, that is click me. The click me is only useful when JavaScript works on it, but the button has to be beautiful. That is where CSS comes in. Then you use this syntax to close it. Alright, that is for an example of HTML. So with this, whatever project you want to start on, this shows you how you're going to start to achieve it. Then for your CSS, you can see the font. We using Arial, sans serif. Then the background color, you can see this color. These are just numbers. If you are into graphic design, you would have been acquainted with seeing numbers like this. Every color has a number, and every color variation has its unique number. So even if I say something is blue, blue has shades, several hundreds of shades. So these numbers are used to show those variations. Then for your that is for the body. Then for your header, you have a different color. Then for your button, you have padding. You have your font size, because when you say click me, what font size do you want it to have? Then your JavaScript, that is the action. You have syntax for, remember, for each of the, for HTML, CSS, for JavaScript, there are different syntax. These are syntaxes for JavaScript. So you are adding a listener, an event listener, such that when a person clicks that button, there's an action. So you can see that creating your first web page is as simple as what I've just shown you. By the way, my name is Tolu Akinfesola, and I've been into this for about 10 years now, and it's been a wonderful journey. It's always evolving, but the principle remains the same. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.